Hello folks, today we're going to be discussing trade, basically the concepts of import and exporting and how they benefit a country's economy. Now to understand whether we want to export or import a product depends on the domestic as well as the world price. If the domestic price is less than world price internationally, then we export it, but if it's greater than the world price, then we import it. During trade, domestic price slowly but gradually adjusts and matches up to the world price. Let's say that the price of apples in Canada is about $10, whereas in the international market, the price is $12. So as a result, the Canadian sellers decide to export apples into the international market. Now when that happens, keep in mind that the domestic price for apples in Canada is still about $10 because Canadian consumers don't want to pay $12 for their apples. They don't want them to be more expensive. And due to that fact, Canadian sellers don't have much of an incentive to provide many apples to their Canadian consumers. So as a result, the price in Canada goes up from $10 to $12. And when that happens, first of all, the quantity that's being demanded goes down to 30 units. And the quantity that's being supplied at the same price goes up to 50. And those extra 20 units are gains from trade that the sellers benefit from, those 20 units being the apples that are being exported in the international market. Now the exact opposite thing takes place if we import apples instead of export them. Let's say that the international price of apples was $7 instead of 12, so it was below the domestic price of $10. So Canada decides to import apples instead. And when that happens, due to the principle we discussed earlier, the fact that during a trade, domestic price adjusts and matches up with the world price, apples now being sold at $7 everywhere. So the quantity demanded goes up to 90 because obviously apples are now cheaper, people want more of them. And the quantity that's being supplied at that same price goes down to 20. Those extra 70 units are part of gains from trade that the consumers benefit from in this case. Those 70 units being the apples that have been imported from other countries. Now imports and exports both improve general economic well-being in a country. Doesn't matter which one's taking place. Exports bring in more money into the country, they bring in more cash flow, and they help businesses grow. And in the case of imports, even though the cash flow is going outside the country, the general economic well-being is still going to be better off than before, since people can now access cheaper and higher quality products. Now to summarize, the key ideas that you want to keep in mind are during exports, domestic sellers win and domestic buyers lose. During imports, domestic sellers lose and domestic buyers win, so it's the opposite. And regardless of whether a good's being imported or exported, the country's economy is always going to be better off.